My mother faked having terminal cancer for 18 months so I would move back home and care for her, but I caught her dancing at a nightclub with her hospice nurse. So I did this at her Miraculous recovery party. So I, female, 31, used to have this whole life in Chicago. I had a really good marketing job that I had worked my ass off for, a nice apartment, and a boyfriend, Zach, who I'd been with for 3 years. We were actually talking about getting engaged soon, had looked at rings and everything. I had basically built this whole independent life away from my small hometown in Michigan. I should probably mention that my relationship with my mom, Teresa, female 58, has always been complicated. She's always been kind of needy, but it got way worse after my dad died from a heart attack 7 years ago. Like, she would call me constantly about little things just to keep me on the phone. I always felt guilty about living so far away, but I mean, I had to have my own life, right? It's not like I abandoned her. I visited on holidays and called her like 3 times a week. Anyway, about 18 months ago, I was at work preparing for this huge client presentation when my phone rang. It was my mom, sobbing. She told me she had just been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and the doctors gave her 12 to 24 months to live. I literally collapsed in the hallway outside the conference room. I couldn't breathe. My coworkers found me having a complete breakdown. My mom kept telling me she wanted to die in her own home where she and my father raised me, and that she didn't want to be alone at the end. I tried to arrange care for her remotely at first. I flew home 3 weekends in a row to interview caregivers and set up services, but my mom kept saying the nurses weren't the same as having her daughter there, and would call me crying about how scared she was. She would send me these texts about having rough treatment days and wishing I was there, and I felt so guilty being hundreds of miles away while my mom was supposedly dying. So I made the temporary decision to move home. My company was actually amazing at first and gave me a 6-month leave of absence. Zach and I tried to do long distance, but after like 4 months, he was getting frustrated because I couldn't give him any timeline for coming back. We had this huge fight where he told me that while he understood my mom was sick, I couldn't put my whole life on hold indefinitely. At the time, I thought he was being so selfish. Now God, I was so stupid. I ended up having to resign when my leave ran out because mom was supposedly getting worse. I broke up with Zach. I gave up my apartment. I moved back into my literal childhood bedroom, which my mom had kept exactly the same since high school, complete with my old softball trophies and prom photos from 2010, which is just weird to be honest. For over a year, my entire life became taking care of my dying mother. I drove her to weekly chemo appointments at a hospital 45 minutes away. I managed all her medications. I held her hair back when she would throw up, which conveniently only happened when I was home. I was draining my savings because I wasn't working and was helping with her medical bills that insurance didn't cover. I should have noticed things weren't adding up. Mom would never let me come into her actual appointments. She always said it was too depressing or that she didn't want me to see her like that. But I respected her privacy because cancer is humiliating enough, right? I didn't want to push. About 6 months ago, Mom's condition supposedly got worse, and her doctor recommended hospice care. That's when Sarah, female 45, started coming to the house 3 to 4 times a week as her hospice nurse. Mom and Sarah got super close super fast. They had all these private conversations and inside jokes. Sarah was always telling me to take breaks and care for myself, saying she could handle Mom's care for a few hours. Looking back, there were so many red flags. Mom started having more and more good days. I would find her medications untouched even though she claimed she took them. Phone calls would end abruptly when I walked into the room. Her hair was growing back surprisingly quickly after chemo. But I believed her because who the fuck fakes cancer? Everything fell apart last weekend. My old high school friend Jamie had been begging me to go out for months, saying I needed a break from caregiving. I finally agreed to go to this new club in the next town over. We were there for maybe an hour when Jamie grabbed my arm and pointed out my mom on the dance floor. There was my supposedly terminal, bedridden mother dancing energetically with Sarah. They were both drinking and laughing. My mom looked completely healthy. I pushed through the crowd feeling like I was going to throw up. When I finally reached them, my mom saw me and froze. The look on her face was pure panic. I confronted her about how she could be dancing when she could barely walk at home. Mom started making excuses about therapeutic dancing recommended by her doctor. Sarah backed up the story, saying it was for emotional health. When I asked which doctor specifically recommended dance therapy for terminal cancer, Mom got flustered and said they needed to leave because she was suddenly feeling ill. Jamie was taking photos while I confronted them. Mom and Sarah practically ran out, saying I was overreacting and that we would talk about it tomorrow. When I got home later that night, my mom was in bed acting extremely weak and ill again. I couldn't even look at her. I was so confused and angry and heartbroken all at once. The next day, Mom went out with Sarah to another doctor's appointment. I did something I've never done before. I searched her room. What I found made me physically sick. There was a makeup kit with instructions for creating fake pallor and dark circles, a journal with detailed notes about cancer performance techniques and which symptoms to display on which days, actual written instructions for creating fake side effects. I found bank statements showing no payments to the hospital or for medications, but regular payments to a community theater group. The worst part, I found romantic texts between my mom and Sarah discussing their plan and how they needed to be more careful after the nightclub incident. I called the hospital pretending to be my mom, and guess what? They had no record of any cancer patient with her name. None. Zero. For 18 months, my mom has been pretending to die of cancer. And now she has suddenly announced a miraculous cancer remission and is planning this big celebration party this weekend for family, friends, and their church community. She wants me to make a speech about our cancer journey together. I've lost my career, my relationship, my home, my savings, and 18 months of my life to this lie. I feel so violated and manipulated and angry. I don't even know what to do at this recovery party. Part of me wants to expose her in front of everyone, but another part is just so exhausted and broken. What the actual fuck do I do now? Edit. So many people asking if I'm sure she was faking. Yes, I'm sure. Beyond the nightclub incident, the hospital confirmed they've never treated her for cancer. I found actual written instructions for how to fake symptoms, and she and Sarah have texts discussing their plan. This isn't a misunderstanding. To those suggesting I might have misunderstood the texts, they were explicit. One from my mom to Sarah literally said she needed to be more careful with their story since I almost caught them, and that maybe she should have a setback to explain why she was out dancing. Another one said to remember to take the prop pills because I was getting suspicious about the meds. Now for the first update. First of all, wow. I honestly did not expect my post to blow up like that. Thank you all for the support and advice. After my last post, I realized I needed more answers before confronting my mom directly. Part of me was still hoping there was some bizarre explanation that would make sense without my mother being a complete monster. But the more I dug, the worse it got, like way worse. I started by calling my Uncle Phil, Mom's younger brother. We've never been super close, but I was desperate for someone who might know something. I think he could tell from my voice that something was seriously wrong because he finally started talking. Turns out, this isn't the first time my mom has pulled something like this. Not cancer specifically, but faking illnesses for attention. Phil told me that when I left for college, my mom suddenly developed these heart problems that had doctors baffled. But miraculously, her symptoms improved once I started calling home every day. And when I was considering a job in London 5 years ago, she suddenly had suspicious mammogram results that later turned out to be benign once I declined the international position. Phil actually apologized for not saying anything sooner. He said the family has basically been enabling her behavior for years because it was easier to keep the peace. I was furious. Like, you all just let me destroy my entire life over a lie. He got defensive and said they had no idea she would take it this far with the cancer. After talking to him, I went into full detective mode. I found receipts showing Mom joined an acting class called Method Acting for Beginners 3 months before her supposed diagnosis. She also bought books like The Cancer Patient's Guide and Medical Terminology for Beginners weeks before telling me she was sick. Who does that? And Sarah, she's not a hospice nurse at all. She's my mom's friend from community theater. They did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest together, where Sarah played a nurse, which I guess gave her the confidence to pretend to be one in real life. I found their cast photos on the theater's Facebook page. Oh, and the biggest surprise, my mom and Sarah aren't just friends, they're lovers. They've been in a relationship for over 2 years after meeting at that theater production. The texts I found weren't just about their cancer lies, there were romantic messages too. So not only did my mom fake cancer, she used it to introduce her girlfriend into our lives as her nurse. I can't even process how twisted that is. I actually contacted the doctor my mom claimed was treating her, Dr. Valerie Mitchell. She confirmed my mom was never her patient and was concerned about someone impersonating a cancer patient. She offered to provide a written statement confirming this was fraud. I took her up on that offer immediately. The emotional toll of all this is, I don't even have words. I've lost 18 months of my life. My career was just about to take off. I was being considered for creative director at my agency. That promotion went to someone else while I was on leave, and now that position won't open again for years. I looked up Zach on social media, my ex who I broke up with to care for my dying mother. He's engaged to someone else already. I saw the announcement on Instagram. It should have been me. We had been looking at rings together before all this happened. My savings are completely gone. I even have some credit card debt from covering what I thought were my mom's uncovered medical expenses. How do you even begin to recover from something like this? I feel so stupid for not seeing through it earlier. The signs were all there. I spent the last week talking to more people in our community. My Aunt Caitlin admitted she thought it was weird Mom never lost weight despite supposedly having pancreatic cancer. My cousin saw Mom at the mall looking totally fine when she was supposedly bedridden that same day. Mom's former coworker mentioned she never actually stopped going to community theater rehearsals. I discovered Mom has been collecting disability benefits fraudulently this whole time. The local church raised over $15,000 for her experimental treatments, which were obviously fake. Several neighbors have been delivering home-cooked meals for months. I found out she's been attending actual cancer support groups with real cancer patients. Sarah created multiple Facebook fundraiser pages on Mom's behalf. I found a stack of thank you cards Mom had written to donors, ready to be sent after her recovery. Mom has started writing an inspirational memoir about her cancer journey. I've been staying in a hotel the past few days because I can't stand to be in the same house with her. She keeps texting me asking where I am and why I'm being distant right before her big celebration. The audacity. After reading all your comments and advice, I've decided to attend the recovery party tomorrow night, but not for the reasons my mother thinks. I've created a comprehensive evidence file with everything I've discovered. The nightclub video footage, the photographs, statements from the hospital and Dr. Mitchell, the text messages, and a timeline of the whole lie. I've arranged for a new apartment starting the day after the party. I've packed my essentials and important documents in my car. 3 of my friends are coming with me to the party for moral support. I'm not doing this to get back at her or cause a scene. I just need the truth to come out. I need closure. Though honestly, I am furious, and part of me does want her to face consequences for what she's done. In the last few days, Mom has gotten even more elaborate with her recovery story. She contacted the local newspaper about doing a miracle recovery feature. She's planning a dramatic reenactment of receiving the good news at the party, and she set up a donation box for a cancer research charity that I discovered is fake. It's just a P.O. box she set up herself. I just got to the party. The house is packed with people. Mom is wearing a pink Survivor t-shirt covered in cancer awareness ribbons and jewelry. Everyone is treating her like she's some kind of inspirational hero. She just announced that I'll be giving a special speech about our journey together. Little does she know I've prepared a different kind of presentation. I have my USB drive with all the evidence, ready to connect to the TV that was meant for her journey slideshow. Sarah keeps looking at me nervously. I think she suspects something is up. Mom is beaming with pride as she introduces me to the crowd. I'm about to change everything. Wish me luck. Edit. To those asking if I'm sure she was faking, yes, I'm 100% sure now. The doctor confirmed she was never a patient there. I have written proof. The cancer center she claimed to go to has no record of her. Her supposed nurse is actually her girlfriend from community theater with 0 medical training. And I literally found her journal detailing how to fake symptoms. This isn't a misunderstanding. Many of you asked if I'm planning to pursue legal action. Yes, I'm definitely looking into it, especially regarding the disability fraud and the fake charity donations. I've already contacted a lawyer who specializes in fraud cases and have an appointment next week. For those concerned about my safety, don't worry, I have support with me. My friends are here and know the plan. I'm not staying at the house after this. Everything important is already in my car. Some people suggested I just leave without confrontation. I understand why you'd say that, but I need to do this. The community deserves to know they've been lied to and manipulated. The real cancer patients who supported her deserve to know the truth. And honestly, I need this closure for my own healing. Now for the second update. So this is probably going to be my last update on this whole nightmare situation. I know a lot of you were wondering what happened at the recovery party, and wow, just wow. I don't even know where to start. Sorry in advance for how long this is going to be, but there's so much to cover. So after I posted my last update, I was literally sitting in my car outside my mom's house for like 20 minutes just trying to work up the courage to go in. I could see through the windows that the place was packed, like 60 plus people crammed into our living room and kitchen. There were people from church, neighbors, family friends, even a few actual cancer patients from the support group my mom had been pretending to be part of, which still makes me absolutely sick. Walking in felt surreal. Everyone was smiling and congratulating me, saying how inspiring my mother was and how relieved I must be. I just wanted to scream. I kept thinking about how these same people would be looking at me in about 30 minutes, and I felt like I was going to throw up. My mom was in the center of the living room looking like, I don't know how to describe it exactly. She had this weird performance going on, walking with this completely unnecessary slight limp, pausing dramatically between sentences to take these deep breaths like she was still recovering, but meanwhile she was in full makeup with this pink survivor shirt and like 5 different cancer ribbon pins and necklaces. She was basically playing the role of brave cancer survivor, and everyone was buying it. When she saw me, she rushed over, totally forgetting her fake limp for a second lol, and hugged me super tight in front of everyone. She told everyone loudly that I was her amazing daughter who got her through the darkest time of her life. I had to physically stop myself from pushing her away. I just stood there frozen. Sarah was hovering nearby looking super nervous. She kept giving me these weird looks and whispering to my mom. I think she suspected something was up because I'd been MIA for a few days. My friends Jamie, Alex, and Kayla had positioned themselves strategically around the room as we'd planned. After about 20 minutes of mingling and me avoiding direct conversation with anyone, my mom tapped a glass to get everyone's attention. She gave a tearful speech about her brave battle and how her faith and my support cured her cancer. She claimed the doctors couldn't explain it, but sometimes miracles happen to those who truly believe. I saw a few people dabbing at their eyes, and I couldn't believe people were buying this garbage. She ended by announcing that I would now share some words about our cancer journey together. Everyone turned to look at me expectantly. My heart was literally pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I walked up to the front of the room where my mom had set up a TV for her journey slideshow. I connected my USB drive to it instead. I told everyone that before we celebrate, there was something they needed to know about my mother's cancer. My mom's face instantly changed. She tried to grab my arm, but I stepped away. I started the video compilation I'd put together. It began with the nightclub footage Jamie had taken, showing my supposedly bedridden mother dancing energetically. Then came the recorded phone calls with the hospital and with Dr. Mitchell, confirming my mother was never a patient there. I included photos of the journal where she'd written detailed instructions for faking symptoms. I showed the side-by-side photos of my mom sick at home and then perfectly healthy hours later at theater rehearsal. The room was dead silent, except for occasional gasps. Some people were covering their mouths in shock. A few were looking back and forth between the screen and my mother, like they couldn't process what they were seeing. Then I revealed Sarah wasn't a hospice nurse at all, but was actually my mom's girlfriend from community theater. I included their cast photos and romantic text messages, with the explicit parts blacked out, obviously. I ended with a statement I'd gotten from a therapist explaining how medical lying is a form of emotional abuse. When the video ended, there was a long moment of complete silence. Then everything happened at once. My mom tried to grab the remote control, screaming that the video was taken out of context and not what it looked like. My Uncle Phil stepped in front of her and told her to let the truth come out. I nearly fell over in shock. He's never stood up to her before. Sarah tried to slip out the back door, but Jamie was already there and blocked her path. Sarah started crying, saying she only went along with it because she loved my mom. My mom kept changing her story every 5 seconds. First, she claimed the video was edited or fake. When people pointed out they recognized her in the footage, she switched to claiming she had symptoms she truly believed were real. Then when Dr. Mitchell's statement was mentioned again, she tried saying she went to a different Dr. Mitchell. The pastor from her church asked my mom directly if she had been lying about having cancer the entire time. Mrs. Jenkins, who is an actual cancer patient who had befriended my mom at support group meetings, broke down sobbing. She told my mom that she had shared her deepest fears with her, things she couldn't even tell her family because she thought my mom understood. That was probably the most heartbreaking moment of the whole night. My mom tried to dramatically faint, but literally no one rushed to help her. When she realized no one was buying it, she got back up and just stood there. You could actually see her cycling through different emotions, trying to figure out which one would work. She tried crying, fake tears, then anger, then self-pity. She finally admitted she just needed her daughter home and tried to blame me, saying I abandoned her when I moved to Chicago. She told everyone that I never would have come home otherwise. By this point, people were getting openly angry. Someone from the church announced they'd be demanding the fundraiser money back. Several neighbors started gathering their coats and purses to leave, giving my mom disgusted looks. When my mom realized she wasn't getting any sympathy, she got really angry. She started calling me ungrateful and cruel for exposing her private business to everyone. She screamed, "After everything I've done for you," in front of the entire room. I waited until she ran out of steam and then told everyone I'd lost 18 months of my life, my career, my relationship, and my trust, and that I was moving out that night. I handed her an envelope containing a detailed list of financial costs I'd incurred because of her lie. The total came to just over $97,000, including lost wages, apartment lease breaking fees, moving expenses, and money I'd spent on her fake treatments. When I tried to leave, she grabbed my arm hard and started screaming that I couldn't leave her like that, and what would people think? Uncle Phil had to physically remove her hand from my arm and told her she'd done enough damage. Jamie, Alex, Kayla, and I walked out together while my mom was still screaming behind us. We could hear the chaos erupting inside as we got in our cars. I drove straight to the new apartment I'd arranged earlier that week and just collapsed. I think I slept for like 16 hours straight. The aftermath over the past month has been a lot. The story spread through our small town like wildfire. My mom and Sarah have basically become social outcasts. The church demanded repayment of the $15,000 fundraiser money. Several people who had given individual donations or help also requested financial restitution. My mom has been sending me messages that swing wildly between apologetic and accusatory. I've blocked her on most platforms, but she keeps finding new ways to contact me. I'm thinking about getting a new phone number. Sarah apparently left town after losing her job at the local elementary school when the whole thing came out. Turns out they don't want someone who participated in a massive medical fraud teaching their kids. Go figure. As for me, I'm slowly trying to rebuild my life. I found a temporary office job that at least pays the bills while I work on updating my resume and portfolio. I'm seeing a therapist weekly to process all this. She's helping me understand that none of this was my fault and that I don't need to feel guilty, though I still do sometimes. I've reconnected with some of my Chicago friends and former colleagues. Most have been incredibly supportive, though a few seem to think I should forgive and forget because she's still your mother. The biggest news is that I have a job interview with a marketing firm in Chicago next week. It's not as prestigious as my old position, but it's a start, and it would get me back to the city where I actually had a life. I've had some long conversations with my Aunt Caitlin, Dad's sister, who finally opened up about our family history. Apparently, there's a pattern of personality problems on my mom's side that the family has kept quiet about for generations. She thinks my mom likely has some undiagnosed condition that was made worse after my dad died. And Zach, I've thought about reaching out to him, but he's engaged to someone else now, and it wouldn't be fair to disrupt his life. That part still hurts a lot. We should be planning our wedding right now. Instead, I'm starting completely over at 31. I'm trying to figure out if I want to pursue legal action regarding the disability fraud. Part of me wants justice, but another part just wants to move forward and leave this all behind. My therapist says either choice is valid as long as I'm making it for myself and not out of fear or guilt. I honestly don't know if I'll ever have a relationship with my mom again. The level of manipulation and lying is just beyond anything I could have imagined. But I'm trying to work toward forgiveness, not for her sake, but for my own peace of mind. In a weird way, some good has come from this whole mess. I've started volunteering with a legitimate cancer support organization, and it's been healing to channel my anger into something positive. I'm learning that helping others doesn't have to mean completely sacrificing myself. Thank you all again for your support through this absolute nightmare. Your comments and messages helped me feel less alone when my world was falling apart. I'm still figuring out who I am outside of this trauma, but for the first time in months, I feel like I might be okay eventually. Edit. Some people are asking how I knew for sure the cancer was fake. Besides the mountain of evidence in my video, hospital confirming no record of her, the literal journal where she wrote instructions for faking symptoms, Sarah admitting the fraud, etc., my mom literally confessed to everyone at the party when she said she needed me to come home. There is zero doubt here. To those saying I should press charges, I'm still considering it. The disability fraud is a federal offense, and the fake charity could also have legal consequences. I'm consulting with a lawyer next week to understand my options.